What's up, people? You're listening and watching the RAPS Talk podcast presented by HipHoopJunkies.com and HoopHeadsNorth.com and their sponsor, Fan Essentials. Hoops Talk out of Halifax. This is the playoff post-game podcast. My name is Romy Aquino. I have with me
Jean-Francois.
And
Yui Sampang.
What's going on? We missed our Game 3 recap, but now we're fresh off Game 4, Raptors loss. What was the difference between, the Raptors won, Game 3, final score 101-85, and then tonight this afternoon, they lost 183 to Indiana. What was the difference between these two games from the Raptors?
I'll let you start, Yui.
Me start? Oh man, it's night and day, man. It's like the Pacers this game were the ones that came out desperate. It's a lot of it is just the effort, you know. Like Game 3, the Raptors were desperate and they got it going, and the Pacers had no answer, and the opposite was true in this one.
Yeah, and to that point, you got to realize what is working for you and what isn't early. You got to be able to make those adjustments. So if you need to ramp up your intensity because the other team is just seemingly dominating you, you got to be able to figure that out early and counteract that. You can't rely just on jump shots. You got to, force the issue and make the referees blow the whistle. I just didn't see enough of that in this game either. Whereas in the last game, they were working it inside out. Also, Jonas Valanciunas, he was the man the first 3 games of the series, and all of a sudden you're not letting him, operate like you were. It softens up the middle because he's been able to be so active and effective there. It helps open things up on the perimeter for shooters who thus far in the series have had a difficult time kind of creating their own shot. So I just don't understand. It seemed to be such a drastic departure from the way the Raptors have played and even their game plan through the first 3 games. But
yeah, a couple comments on that. Jonas got going in the first 3. This one, it looked like they were really made a game plan of going at him on the defensive end. Like they were jumping into him in the key. He was going straight up and no fouls or whatever, but you're making him work hard every single play. Mm-hmm. And the Indiana intensity, to me, the whole game, it felt like every single one of the Raptors, every time they touched the ball, they were moving at a pace as if there was 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Like every single time. So maybe that's why it didn't work into them. Like it's just like they kind of felt the need. Oh, okay, they're hitting hard, they're intense. We got to go right back at them, but you got to slow it down and like what you were saying, do what's been working.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
For the Indiana Pacers, after that loss to the Raptors, where Toronto, everything worked for Toronto in Game 3. I know. From Indiana's perspective, they don't want to go back to Toronto down 3-1. They're desperate, and they got the job done. Let me just run through some stats from the box score. Toronto, 36% shooting, 27-74, 8 of 30 from 3-point land. Free throws, 21 of 30, and I know the turnovers and the points of turnovers were huge. 17 turnovers. And the points off turnovers, I believe, was 25. What we talked...
19 total turnovers.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, 17 individual, but then 19 as a team.
Right. So, this is something we discussed, before the series started. I think Coach Casey talked about it. It was the points off the turnovers, and, nothing kind of looked right for Toronto at all. Even DeMar, if you're going to talk about specifically DeMar, he didn't get to the free throw line once. Something what he kind of tried to that he brought in Game 3. He didn't get to the line at all this game. So those are just some of the stats. That just stick out. There's just so many things that kind of went wrong with Toronto. And from the fan perspective, they had a big contingent of Raptors fans in Indiana for this one. I don't know what the count was, but if you've seen the crowd, you know there was a lot of people there, and it just kind
It's
of a
the ear
stinker.
test. The ear test. Didn't we hear some "Let's Go Raptors" in there?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I saw some jokes on Twitter about that's why DeMar struggled so much because
Yeah.
it felt like a
Like a
home
home
game.
game.
Oh, that's
But yeah,
let me make another comment on DeMar. He's to me, it seems like he's gotten a lot better on in terms of passing off the penetration this year. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I don't know what the
Oh
stat
yeah,
is saying.
the
That's
assist totals
the
have
eye test.
definitely been rising. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the lack of getting to the free throw line. That's a byproduct. Is that the word I'm looking for?
right.
But then sometimes there's a time where you still got to go up strong with it, like he had been doing in the past. But now it seems like he's trying to anticipate a double or a defensive hell coming and for a kick out, and this time it's just been turnovers rather than getting the assist or getting a good look off of free throws, like taking the contact and getting the free throws. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back, I guess.
So let's talk about DeMar specifically. I mean, what has gone wrong with DeMar's game overall this series? I mean, DeMar and Lowry. I mean, they have struggled throughout the first 4 games. But DeMar specifically is kind of like the guy that everybody's saying is not showing up in the series. So what do you think what's Indiana doing right, and what's DeMar need to improve on for the next game?
Well, defensively, they're definitely pressuring him. They're active hands. They're getting into him. They're trying to make it difficult for him to get shots that he likes to take. That said, and Matt Devlin talked about this, I believe Leo Routens did as well in the telecast, there's been plenty of times, I know Jack did the other night too, when DeMar's been most effective in the shots he has made this series, it's when there was been no hesitation and he's just taken the shot. There's too many times where he gets it and then it turns into ISO basketball and he's trying to, cross people over and spin dribbles and turn around fadeaways. We don't need all that. You know what I mean? Like, your field goal production and percentage has proven that that's not going to work. If you get an open shot, just go up strong, elevate, go vertical and take that shot. Get a good look right away. I think he needs to just, stop trying to make it more difficult than it needs to be. Stop trying to pass the ball when you're in the air. He had 6 turnovers today, and a lot of them were just kind of being careless with the basketball or making late decisions. There's a lot of things he can do, I think, just to make it just more simple for him.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. DeMar, I don't like. We'll have to see what he does in the next game here.
Yep.
But yeah, he's got to make those. I mean, he's got to make those adjustments. I mean, if you're going to compare like the 2 games, I mean, it's kind of night and day in terms of DeMar's game. DeMar Carroll, on the other hand, he was great. He was kind of like the star that came out on Game 3, and he played a season high. How many did he play on that last game? Game 3.
35 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, 35 minutes, a season high, and 17 points, 7 of 16. So he definitely made an impact on Paul George, got him frustrated. But this game here, it seems like Indiana was able to find those other options. That first quarter, I mean, let's talk. I know, Sean, you want to talk about this. Like the first quarter from the Toronto defensive side, and just like George Hill getting hot early. He finished with 22 points, and Jan Mahimi with 22 and 10. What did you guys think about that first quarter, Sean?
I mean, for me, I just didn't like the Raptors' response to what you referred to at the beginning of our chat here today is the intensity that Indiana brought. The Raptors weren't able to match it, which, okay, that's fine. It's the home crowd. They're hyped up. They're got that desperate feeling, but there's other things you can do. So you got to be able to look at the situation and say, okay, you know what? We're not making our jump shots right now. Let's force it to the rim. Let's, try and slow things down a bit, because it was a real fast-paced game. The Raptors, they were turning the ball over pretty quickly. In that first quarter, they had 5 turnovers in the first quarter, and you can't let that, dictate the game, especially so early. And unfortunately, the Raptors kind of let that get away from them, and then they were trying to play catch up the whole way. That to me was a tough pill to swallow, because it was basically even basketball after that. When you dig yourself a big hole, you got to find ways to counteract that early, and the Raptors weren't able to do it.
The funny thing is, we talked about how Jonas didn't get the ball as much this game, foul trouble and whatnot. He was still their leading scorer.
Yeah.
16 points off of 7 shots.
Yeah, and I think what happens too is, especially when you're behind, playing from behind. Especially, Indiana was leading by as much as 25. Then you're forcing the three. You want to kind of hit a couple of threes to to move the momentum of the game, but they shot 33s and nothing was falling. Luis Scola, you thought would kind of step up in the series. He was 0 for 4 from 3, 0 for 5 from the field. Who else struggled? Lowry was 0 for 5, and T. Ross and Patterson were 1 for 4. If you go on a run, I think that's what they were kind of chasing, is to go on that like a 15-0 run or something like that. But it just never came, right? They never. They did come close, but there was nothing that kind of switched the momentum. Indiana kind of had that momentum the whole game.
That's right. Yeah, there was one point where I think they were down 12 or 11, and the ball got kicked out to the corner to Norman Powell, and he had the whole lane. It wasn't even the lane. He had that whole side of the floor. He could have just drove straight to the hoop to force defense to come and help and draw a foul, or to get a dunk and get 2 points out of it, get the game down to either 10 or maybe even 9 at that point. And he took the 3 and missed. You know what I mean? It's to me, those are empty possessions where you're leaving points on the board. 2 points is better than 0 points. Yeah, 3 points is the best you can get in a possession, other than and one situations. But why would you not want to get any points at those positions? I just think they fell in love with the 3, and like you said, Romy, they panicked when it came to trying to cut that lead down. They were looking at how much time is left in the quarter, and just, okay, let's get some threes. Well, they weren't falling, and they weren't falling for the majority of the game. So just go to the hoop, I understand they weren't shooting that ball well from the free throw line for a stretch there either, but it doesn't matter. Drawing fouls against the other team eventually serves you an advantage, because guys get in foul trouble, they have to sit on the bench, or they have to come into the game permanently if they foul out. And I just didn't think that the Raptors tried to force the issue enough there. And that could have potentially even gotten DeMar going too, because he sees the ball go in, palms down, is able to make some free throws, feels a little bit more rhythm in his shot. There's a lot of benefits that come from that, and the Raptors seem to completely get away from that.
Yeah, the game as a whole kind of felt disjointed from the Raptors side. I know even Biyombo. He was at the line a few times where it would have kind of. I thought that they were at key points of the game where he could hit a couple free throws, and he wasn't able to nail those. He was 3 from 8 from the line, but I know at those specific moments, I think it would have made a difference, and they just never fell, and nothing kind of went right for Toronto at all.
That's right. Yeah, he missed at the wrong time, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got was it in the fourth quarter where frustration kind of set in. Paul George and Jonas Valanciunas got kind of tied up, and then that got the Damari Carroll came in to kind of defend his guy, and it was a double technical, I think, and then another technical on Damari Carroll. What did you guys think of that in terms of, was that just more of a frustration thing from the Raptors side?
To be honest with you, that particular play, I didn't think that there was anything wrong with what the Raptors did. I thought it was a complete overreaction by Paul George. He was battling with JV in the post, and JV kind of like, you know what I mean, extended his arm, and Paul Pierce, Paul George didn't like that, and then got in JV's face, and then Damari came to JV's defense, really. Yeah, I think it was more of an overreaction from Paul George than anything else. I'm not sure what you guys thought about it.
Huey?
Yeah, I think it's just a frustration thing, like, at the stage of the game. You look at, like, the Raptors couldn't match their intensity and got frustrated. You got 3 technicals, and I know the Pacers got a bunch in Game 3 as well when they started to get frustrated, so it all snowballs when you can't keep your composure.
Yeah.
The wheels fell off.
Yeah, it was overall, it was...
The end is coming!
I mean, just when you thought
DeMar's a bum. Trade him.
I mean, to be honest, like when you guys were going into Game 4, into this game here, what kind of prediction did you kind of expect for this game?
I was hoping for a Raptors win, but again, our pre-season or pre-series predictions, it was Raptors in 6, so the Raptors are going to have to lose 2 games at some point in order for that to come to fruition. But based on how they played in the last 2 games, if they lost, that's one thing, but the way they lost was more of the surprise, I think, than the loss itself. You know what I mean? Because if it's like, you know, they lose, you know, like in the last second or in the last minute, you know, somehow the Pacers kind of pull away or something like that, that'd be a different story. But that's not what happened. And I think for me, that was the biggest surprise. It was how they lost the game, not the fact that they lost specifically.
It's funny, the shifting expectations as well, because like watching this team for so many years, when you watch Game 3, it was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what you're capable of. That's what you're capable of. That's what you can do. That's what you can do as a team. And then in the halftime interview, and then the interview at the end of the game, they were all business. And I was like, that is the demeanor of a team, of a savvy team that's going to go far in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put up this stinker. But I mean, they still haven't even won a series yet. But it just the demeanor and the way. Probably just because, you know, you get so excited off the one win that.
Oh yeah, I mean I was the same way after Game 3. I was like, okay, this is how they're supposed to play.
Yeah.
This isn't a 7-game series. Damari Carroll's back. The next game, the Raptors are gonna. I at least expected a very close game. I figured Indiana making some adjustments, but I thought it would be. I didn't think it would be a blowout. In this one, as this one was, but it just kind of the Raptors game fell flat, and I mean Indiana, took advantage. So, that's it for Game 4. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about. I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything in terms of, kind of like the box score.
We talked the offensive rebounds, second chances.
Yeah, what was do you get the numbers up there?
Yeah, so second chance points. Unfortunately for the Raptors, in the game, let's get it here. I was on the wrong page here. I'll grab it here. So second chance points, 23, Raptors 18. So that was relatively close. But get this, points in the paint. Pacers.
Oh yeah.
Raptors 26.
Yeah,
like that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the Raptors didn't lead a single time in the game either.
No, yeah, I was looking at that. Yeah, points. I know paint differential was minus 20. Raptors turnovers. Points off turnovers 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indiana field goal percentage 46%. I mean, You can't win the. I mean, when you struggle in so many aspects of the game, I mean, there's no wonder the score was what it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So Tuesday is the next game 5 back in Toronto. Um, do you have the start time for this game 5?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's at 7. But we'll double check here.
Yeah. And what what do you expect to see from the Raptors for this next one?
Well, just hoping that we can see more of what we saw in Game 3. Just moving the ball, guys being real effective and intense on both ends of the floor, but sharing the basketball, getting yourself good looks. Just more of what we have seen all season from the Raptors through the 56 wins and through at least the Game 3 win. I want to see more of that. Even Corey Joseph, we didn't really talk about him, but he had some uncharacteristic turnovers today too. And,
Yeah, he did.
only took 2 shots, so everybody was off. You know what I mean? With the exception of JV and Damari Carroll, everyone else kind of wasn't playing at the level that we've come to expect. And actually, Norman Powell played well today too. He played well.
Yeah, I mean, we're always waiting for like T. Ross or Patterson, just to be the spark and hit some of those clutch threes because they're capable of doing it. And today was one of those days where, I mean, nobody from the bench kind of stuck out for the Raptors at all. Yeah, hopefully, I mean, back in the home crowd with Toronto, it's definitely a game they have to win. I mean, you got to protect your home court. You don't want to go back to Indiana down 3-2.
So wait, Sean, what do you think? We were talking before. I think you had agreed with me about Scola having a huge quarter at some point. Like, Indiana's his former team. He got all that experience.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see, and today was the perfect opportunity because
he had all those open looks. Yeah.
He was getting wide open looks, yeah.
Wide open. They were wide open looks.
Wide open.
And
yeah.
Well, yeah, because they've started leaving him now because he hasn't hit anything all series. So what do you think? Is it gonna happen then? Because it looks like it looks like they're stepping back and saying, "Show me." And I wonder if he is gonna knock him down one of these days.
Yeah.
A veteran, all it takes is 1 or 2 to get going, and then you start seeing those crafty little spin moves in the lane and whatnot, and then him chilling later in the game after he knows he's helped the team.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, unless Coach Casey decides that he's going to change the lineup and start Patterson or something, which is probably unlikely because players are a bit of creatures of habit and like to kind of play their roles a lot of times. They just feel more comfortable kind of coming off the bench if that's what they're used to doing. But it sucks because if he hasn't been able to contribute, this is Scola we're talking about, if he hasn't been able to contribute, it's almost like wasted minutes. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's like you already know, it's like, the foregone conclusion, and you're just kind of like putting him in there just because. I'd like to be able to see like the 16 to 20, 25 minutes that he plays in a game, probably about 20 minutes in a game he normally plays, for those to be productive minutes, and they haven't been so far. But it's like, who do you put in? Like, do you go small? I mean, the Pacers lineup is pretty big. They're trying to make it big to combat JV and such. So, does James Johnson get a start, and they start both James Johnson and Damari Carroll? I don't know. Do they do something like that? I'm just trying to think of other ways to get things going. And at this point, too, it's like, how much of a strategy change can Coach Casey really afford to make in such a pivotal game now where they didn't get the one today? It's going to be very interesting to see. But I think that you keep the leash real, short with regards to Scola's playing time. And if he's not producing early, you got to yank him and get someone else in there.
Yeah, I don't think you want to mess around with the starting lineup. I think you kind of stick with what you got. I mean, and then adjust it from there. But I don't foresee Coach Casey making any changes, but I mean, you never know. We don't know what's going through Coach Casey's head, but yeah, I think you kind of stick with what you got and then adjust the minutes accordingly as the
thing
game
with that
flows.
is, the thing with that is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Skull is broke, man. He
Right.
hasn't done anything in so long.
Right.
How is that helping you?
No, I see. I know
Percent.
what you're
But, like, it's not like it's a knee-jerk reaction. Like, he hasn't done
saying.
anything in a while for them in the series, anyway.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's the thing is like you want to
Unless they,
see that.
specifically say, we'll try to get him involved or something like that. I don't know, as a second option because he can post too. So
Yeah, no, we'll see. We'll see on Tuesday. See what Coach Casey does. But that's it for the podcast. Stay tuned on the blogs, hiphoopjunkies.com and hoopheadsnorth.com. Follow us on Twitter at Romy Aquino, at Sean Francois, at Yui the Jock. This is the Raptors Playoff Podcast. We out.